Hi there. Well, having survived 2024, here we are in 2025. Happy New Year. Well, 2024. I don't know how it went for you, but for me, it was an interesting year. And of course, interesting is not always a good thing. Well, in this case, I think mostly it was. Over the past year, before we get to my photography, let's talk about life in general. My wife finally retired back in June of this past year. Past year. And with that came a whole bunch of changes. We sold a home we had in New Brunswick. We moved into a trailer which we use at a beach in New Brunswick, stayed there for the summer. Then we moved to St. John's, Newfoundland. Why St. John's? Well, first of all, we are originally from Newfoundland. Gander, however. But when we looked at where people are now, we have 2 sons, a couple of grandchildren, and a few other relatives that are living in St. John's. Most of my wife's family now live in New Brunswick, strangely enough. They all seem to move there after we did. She has 1 sister left in Gander, but they spend a lot of time in St. John's as well. So we are now closer to friends. Our old friends live only an hour away. We hopefully will make new friends. My wife's already involved in some activities, and I'm in the local camera club. Camera club. There you go. Fresh start. Interestingly, the last camera club I was in, I was a bit of the gear geek guy that people would ask questions if they weren't quite sure about some technical issue. Now I'm just getting a feel for where I am. So it'll be an interesting year moving forward. Now, for the photography part. Over the past year, I have really made an actual effort to reduce gear. Now, it'll sound hypocritical when I talk about the fact that I did buy into a full frame system. Now, you might say, hold on now, aren't you the guy who keeps saying that micro four thirds is enough? Well, it is. But given the opportunity to get a more modern camera, seeing that I could have gotten a camera and 2 f2.8 zoom lenses and a 50mm prime for less than the cost of a new high-end micro four thirds camera, I said, well, I want to move forward. I don't necessarily need full frame, but it is very nice to have more of the modern conveniences. So now I am the proud owner of a used Sony A9 with a 17 to 28 millimeter f2.8 Tamron lens and a 28 to 75 millimeter f2.8, along with the nifty 50, the somewhat maligned 50 millimeter f1.8 Sony. Well, for my purposes, it's fine. I have already made great use of this camera system. However, let me put one thing in perspective. I still use micro four thirds for things like street photography. I still carry a micro four thirds camera with me as much as possible. The full frame gear, although the camera body itself is not particularly large, when you put full frame lenses with it, except for the 50mm f1.8, it is a pretty chunky beast. Now, many people who are used to something like a Nikon D850 will say, oh, don't be silly, it's a tiny little lightweight camera. But if you've been walking around with an original EM1 Olympus, it's a whole different story. Especially when you look at the fact that the Olympus lenses are so much smaller and so much lighter at equivalent focal lengths. Well, what have I discovered about full frame? I'm not all that enamored with super shallow depth of field. It just means that it's harder to get the things you want in focus. Do I like the look of the images? Absolutely. Does it work better in low light? Yes, it does. Is there a significant difference in the images when you are viewing them that have been shot in good light? None at all. Portraits that I've taken with my Micro Four Thirds gear look just as good as portraits I have taken with my Sony. The big difference is light. If you put enough light on your subject, you don't have to worry too much about the size of the sensor. Anyhow, as I said, moved to a new location, got involved with a new group, and this particular group has been very active this fall. I had 2 opportunities to shoot in a studio environment. I had a couple of opportunities to shoot both street photography and Christmas lights. So it has been an enjoyable experience. My Christmas gifts this year included a set of continuous lights, one of which is lighting me from this side right now, while a window is lighting me from this side. Those continuous lights with soft boxes will, I think, up my game in terms of video and in terms of photography. As for video, I have put away the old VG10, and now I'm using a Sony a6300 to shoot my video because it has much better autofocus. It does a much better job of focusing on things that I put in front of it. I hope it's not making a liar out of me right now. And overall, it is a more flexible package. So that's where I am with video. Well, folks, as I said, I'm trying to reduce, and yet I bought all this new stuff. The lights, I think the lights are a plus. As for the camera gear, I have sold off a substantial amount of my, what I'll call surplus gear. If I had lenses that covered the same focal length, I sold one of them. So I have sold a telephoto, I have sold a normal zoom, I have sold an extra camera body that I had, a battery grip, a number of other items along with it. So that now my Micro Four Thirds gear is basically an EM5, an EM5 II, and an EM1. My lenses basically go from 12 millimeters up to 300 millimeters. So I still cover the full range. And for my use, longer focal lengths are really just for a bit of fun now and then. I make no false claims about being a wildlife photographer, so the few times that I shoot anything wildlife will be very limited. Anyhow, folks, I don't have much else to say except I hope that 2025 brings you lots of wonderful things. I have high hopes for myself and our family. Things have changed a lot in 2024, and those changes will continue into 2025, so it'll be a while. And I do apologize for my dinging phone. I should have really put it on Do Not Disturb before I started making this video. Anyhow, if you enjoy the video, please give me a like to let me know you're out there, and see you again. Bye.